Good morning, everyone. Lovely to see you all. Best laid plans and all that. It's kind of all gone wrong this morning. I did reach out to Charlotte and Martha and said, oh, join at 10 to 10 and we'll have a quick run through, make sure everything's working. And then I joined and realised you're all in here, so I don't know what happened. Charlotte and Martha, if you're there, can you show us your lovely faces and unmute yourselves?
Morning.
Morning.
Morning all.
Morning. Let's see if we can see you. Have you got the facility to turn your camera on?
Camera's on. Right, that's Martha, Andrea. So I can see you.
You can see me. I can see you now, Martha. And Charlotte, is your camera working?
I thought my camera was on as well. I can see myself. So maybe I'll try again. Can you see me now?
I can see Charlotte. She's
on
see you now. Page 3 of my listing.
I have to say, ladies, you're looking remarkably fresh considering the month that you've just had at Royal Mail. So well done. I've got my colleague in the background admitting people as they join, but since we've got so much to cover this morning, I thought we'd just delve straight in really with some of the questions that these lovely small businesses have been asking us. But I thought, first of all, before I do that, obviously everybody knows who I am, but I didn't know, Martha, would you like to introduce yourself and then Charlotte afterwards?
Yes, happy to. Good morning, everybody. My name's Martha Roberts. I work at Royal Mail. My job title is Head of Customer Success. What that means in practical terms is that I am helping customers, whether that's large businesses, small businesses, consumers, to choose and use Royal Mail. And for the last, I work right the way across all kinds of domestic and international pieces of work for Royal Mail. But for the last 4 weeks, I've worked fairly exclusively on supporting our international team to very rapidly develop and adapt our services in order that we could be live to use services that comply with the new US customs requirements.
That's amazing. Thanks, Martha. And Charlotte?
I'm Charlotte Prescott. I am the Director of Customs and International Policy for Royal Mail Group. I've been around for a little while now. I cover all the customs imports and exports for Royal Mail, so through our postal business and our commercial business as well. And that's all. I think it's probably self-explanatory otherwise, but yeah, I certainly look after a lot of customers that might have problems or issues that we come across from a customs perspective, and hopefully we do a good job with that. But if not, then obviously let us know in the future. But it's certainly been a very interesting last couple of months getting this over the line, and the guys and the teams have done a fantastic job, I think, getting us there. We've got a little way to go now, and obviously there's lots of things coming up in the future, and we don't know what October looks like with the new Trump legal challenges as well. So we'll see what happens with that too in the future. But I'm sure you'll cover that as well, Andrea, right?
That's amazing. Thanks, Charlotte. Yeah, I mean, there's none of us have a crystal ball, right? And I keep saying to clients and businesses that reach out to us, in the whole 30 years I've been in international trade, I've never known a landscape more complex or more volatile or more rapidly changing than it seems to be at the moment. And I think what's so great about you guys agreeing to do this session is it's our small businesses, our micro businesses that are disproportionately impacted by any change in international trade like this. So they're disproportionately impacted by regulation like GPSR. A lot of them were impacted at the back end of last year, beginning part of this year for trading with the EU. And then obviously what President Trump has done with the tariffs. Again, it's our small businesses whose, some of them are lifestyle businesses, right? Whose very, mortgages for next month perhaps depend on whether or not they can continue shipping to the US or the EU. So this is massively appreciated. So thank you so much. What I'm going to do is start going through, obviously, all of these businesses have been submitting questions to us over the last, I don't know, a week or so. So we've been collating those. So we're just going to go through. I thought we'd just cover off the themes because I think they in turn will answer some of these questions. So we have a big following from Northern Ireland, and some of them are questioning where they sit, you know, in likes of the Northern Ireland Protocol and the Windsor Framework. So I think it's kind of like, you know, are their origin goods of UK origin, therefore they'll be subject to the 10% IEEPA tariff rather than the European 15%. And similarly, are the products that are available to GB from Royal Mail, are they available to Northern Ireland as well? Does that make sense?
It does. And in terms of products available, exactly the same products are available. Charlotte, do you want to pick up anything specifically on Northern Ireland customs related stuff?
Yeah, so Northern Ireland will work in exactly the same way it does today, including the same IEEPA tariff that we've put together, or that's in place for G to US. So it will work in exactly the same way.
Brilliant.
So good, simple one to start with.
I think it's confusing, right, for Northern Ireland businesses, because they're kind of within the EU single market for the purpose of goods, but within the UK customs territory. So our understanding at Global Trade Department is that your goods, if they're wholly made in Northern Ireland, are of UK origin, therefore they'll be subject to the 10% and not the 15% that the EU's negotiated. So that's fantastic. Thank you, ladies. Some people get a little bit, and this might be more one for you, Charlotte, with a little bit of input from me. Obviously, with origin, when we've got free trading agreements, which everyone, you know, we talk about those as preferential trade agreements, it's very specific how we calculate origin. But with non-trade agreement territories like the US is, I think the origin gets a little bit blurred. So I'm going to share with you what Global Trade Department would say to you, and then Charlotte can feed in as well with her knowledge. It's usually, for most of you, unless you're selling goods to the US that are wholly obtained within the UK, and we use examples like, you know, crop that's been harvested in the UK, or animals that have been bred in the UK, things that have been, you know, wholly obtained within the UK. That's a simple one. But in this world of global commerce and, you know, supply chains and so on, it's quite often that our products will contain more than just UK origin goods. So taking an example from Customs and Border Protection website, they talk about making a cake with the various ingredients coming from several different countries. So I don't know, eggs from the EU, flour from the UK, sugar from elsewhere. Because the product is a cake, or I think they've said cookies, then you've transformed all of those different originating ingredients into a cake. So they look very different to they did in their raw format. That's a simple example of transformation being met. So you can definitively say those goods are of UK origin. But if you've taken vegetables that have been grown in lots of different countries and you've simply frozen them, then that's not enough. That's insufficient transformation. So you'd have to declare the origin of each one of those vegetables, some of which might be UK, some of which might be elsewhere. And within every trade agreement, and similarly within US regulation, it will give a list of things that the processing is just insufficient. So diluting something with water, or any kind of minor process, is typically not enough to transfer UK origin. So I know we've got a lot of creatives on the webinar today. So if you're, you know, buying your clay, for example, within the UK, and you're making your sculptures within the UK, that's a slam dunk. Easily enough, you've transformed that. But similarly, if you're buying your clay from elsewhere, the process of you creating your sculpture, you've transformed that clay into a different finished product. So you'd be okay there as well. I don't know, Charlotte, do you have anything to add on that? Because with the US, it's a little bit woolly, isn't it?
Yeah, so we do actually have the rules, the origin rules for the US. I can ping over a link to that, unless you've already got that, Angie, and we can share that with the businesses.
Anything you've got that you can share would be amazing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, you're right though. It doesn't go into the specific detail, but there are also some binding origin agreements out there as well. So we've come across some for ourselves actually in our own business. So sending stamps and selling stamps and collectible items to the US, we've had to do a similar kind of exercise for ourselves. So Yeah, I can ping over that, and also the any other bits of information I can put together on that. The binding origin might be quite useful because there's quite a lot out there, as you can imagine, because the rules don't go into as much detail as they do for ours in the UK, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be amazing. Anything you can share, ladies, would be absolutely fantastic. Big question, as you can imagine. If we don't have to deal with this, we don't want to deal with it. So product exemptions have been a massive focus.
Yeah.
Martha, you were very helpful in sending across kind of like the chapter 49, which is like those information materials. They look like they're protected and they're exempt. But also we've had a lot of questions, again, because of our following within the kind of creative community. So we've got a lot of artists out there. Can you shed some light on kind of like artworks? Because as we understand, they're protected also as being cultural items, and so therefore chapter, I think, 9701 through to 9706 should be exempt. Is that your understanding as well?
I'll let Charlotte answer on that, but first, important to say is that when you're submitting your information to Royal Mail, whether you're working with a Royal Mail account or whether you're submitting via the send journey, via click and drop, then obviously we ask you for item descriptions, and if you're a business account holder, we ask you for an HS code linked to that description of items. Our calculations are therefore based on our understanding, working with qualified partners, of what the IEPA exemptions list is. So whether you're buying and paying for your items up front, then the duty calculation will be based on our understanding of exemptions to do with that. If you're an account customer and you're putting your items through with your HS codes, then our understanding is that you will be billed back for items that are not exempt. If you're submitting items that are exempt from IEPA duties, and we have the listings of those, our understanding, that have been validated, and that includes the chapter 97 items that we were talking about last week, Andrea, then the customs duties on those will be zero. The handling fee will still apply. That's procedurally how it works, because the items still have to go through that clearance process with our partner. But do you want to talk, Charlotte, about the specifics to do with the artistic chapters?
Yeah, and I can send this over as well. So we've been provided with our partners, not a very pretty document, so could pretty it up a little bit, a full list of the exempted items. I've just had a quick look now, so as you've raised it, but they're at the header level, so that's 9701, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 in the 97 chapter. So paintings, original engravings, original sculptures and things like that do all fall at that level. So it'll be anything to a 10 or 8 digit after that. So that's quite a big chunk. But I'll send that over.
That's amazing, Charlotte. Thank you. And that will come as such a relief for a huge. It's funny with the whole GPSR thing last year and the beginning part this year. We at Global Trade Department have never had the privilege of working with the creative sector before, and all of a sudden helping them with that piece of regulation just unearthed all these micro businesses creating the most fantastic goods that kind of fly under the radar. You know, they're posting frequently and they're contributing to the UK economy, but I just didn't really know they existed. It's really rather embarrassing. So they're going to be overjoyed with that news. They can continue as they were, but the handling charge will still apply. Is that right? Because they're having to be cleared differently to how they would have been before de minimis was taken away. Is that right, Martha? Is that kind of like what you're implying?
Yes, and I think I've just seen in the chat as well that somebody said quit with the acronyms already, and we are definitely guilty of that. So apologies for acronym central. It's become a speed of speech thing going on in the last few weeks. So when we're talking about
guilty of it.
We all are, I think. But when we're talking about IEPA tariffs, in very simple terms, what we mean is the country-based tariffs that were announced earlier in the year. So for the UK, for example, country of origin 10%, for the EU 15%. So that's what we mean when we're saying IEPA, which is an acronym for an emergency act that was used, and the tariffs were introduced under that guise. So we'll try and de-acronym from now on.
Sorry, guys. I am terrible at it as well, and I I keep trying to simplify it. This doesn't help with the next question. So when we talk about MFN, you know, when I've done these webinars before, I've talked about the IEPA tariff has been the Trump tariff, because that's the emergency kind of tariffs that have been brought in under his administration. The MFN, or the most favoured nation tariff, are what you would have paid before Trump came in. So that's the standard duties that your goods would have been subjected to on import into the US if you were over that $800 de minimis threshold. So a lot of people are asking, and you can understand that people are just a little bit nervous about paying what Royal Mail are telling them to pay, and then something happening and it not being, you know, accepted or being returned, because that's, you know, that's almost like a fiscal penalty in itself. But is it absolutely correct that goods going through the postal network will only be subject to that Trump tariff and not the Trump tariff plus the original tariff, so the IEPA plus the MFN? Because obviously the other fast parcel operators are having to calculate in that way. So is our understanding correct?
No, absolutely. And we've been around the houses on this as well, just to make doubly sure and to get some reassurances from not only our own legal advisors and own external legal counsel, but also from CBP themselves. So we
Customs Border Protection.
It's Customs Border Protection, yeah, the border authorities in the US. So we've been reassured that this is how it will work. Now, I have to add though that like you said earlier on, Andrea, we don't have crystal balls. We don't know whether in 6 months' time the officials will turn around and say, actually, this is a bit of a loophole, and it allows the circumvention of the MFN tariffs. So we do have to be mindful of the fact that something might change in the future. But as it stands today, this all we are applying and all we need to apply from the postal network is the IEPA tariffs.
Yeah,
amazing.
So the country-based tariffs are what will be reflected in duties if you're sending via Royal Mail or Parcelforce via the postal network.
Amazing. I mean, that has such a huge impact on our textiles manufacturers, for example, where textiles were always hit by high MFNs or duties. So, you know, sending a product, say we've got some manufacturers up in Scotland that are dealing with the most wonderful wool and yarn and creating these wonderful things. If they were posting, if they were sending goods in an alternative manner to using Royal Mail, they could be facing up to 26% duties on import into the US, as opposed to the 10% by posting with Royal Mail, if that's, you know, as we've understood it correctly, because their products are subjected to those higher kind of like 16% MFN duties. So that's fantastic. Thank you for that. Another question that we've had is, and we're going to use more acronyms here, but to put it basically, the 10% Trump tariff, is it calculated on just the product itself, so the ex works price, or is it on the CIF price, so the postage included?
Yeah, so this will work in the same way that if anybody's shipping to the EU and using iOS, so it's intrinsics of anything. So it is literally your transaction value, the price paid for the goods.
Yep.
That's amazing. So that's excluding the postage price. So excellent. That clarifies that massively. Can we talk through the valuation build-up? So obviously a lot of people are concerned about additional charges that they might see, and what do they mean? So can you talk us through a standard postal transaction and what they might expect to see calculated into that landed cost?
Do you want me to take that one, Charlotte?
Yeah, go on. Yeah. This is a product thing.
Again, the way in which this works for our account customers differs from if you are prepaying, if you like, via online postage or at the post office. But in all of those examples, you have postage, and what we've done is kept the postage charges for the equivalent US services the same as they were before. So we've got postage charges, we've got Royal Mail admin handling fees that are displayed as a separate line, and then we have the duties payable line as well. So those are the three categories that you see, regardless of whether you're buying online, buying at the post office. If you are buying as an account customer, then that won't be as clear at the front end of matters, because what you're doing is following a process whereby you declare your items and the value of your items and all of the item information that you were declaring before all of this happened. And then our partner does the actual calculation of the duties, the country tariff that is applicable to your items. They pay that on our behalf, and Royal Mail then invoices you for those duties after the fact. There's been quite a lot of confusion on the account customer side about a field that they have to fill in, that you have to fill in, that says customs duty cost. Now, that field, whilst it requires something to be put in there, it does not require you, if you don't know it, to put the actual customs duty cost in that field. So you can put a 0 or you can put a 1. It is not used at the moment and for the foreseeable future to calculate the actual duties that are payable on those individual items. I mean, what we would say as sellers is that we'd strongly recommend that you do know what those duty costs are likely to be, in conjunction with all the information we're giving you about what tariffs will apply, so that you're not left out of pocket by these. But if you're an account customer, you don't have to fill in the actual duties costs in that field. What you will get is an invoice back after every 7 days that has your duties and taxes at item level, in accordance with those items that you've sent us. So if you're prepaying, you'll get those 3 determinations of postage, administration fee and customs duties. And if you're an account customer, then it's a slightly different process whereby you submit your items and you get billed back for the duties associated with those items.
Brilliant. And I think previously when I did kind of like a short video to the account holder community, I was expressing to them, try and familiarize yourself with what those tariffs will be, so that when you get your monthly account bill, it doesn't look. So that brings me to the next question. I know there's a lot of online calculators, and that they can use free of charge, or they can add to their e-commerce checkout and so on. But is Royal Mail doing its own, or have you done your own already?
So
for account holders.
So for account holders, we previously were using a system called Hurricane, but not hugely, because of course we didn't need a landed cost calculator for the US prior to this. And what we are planning to be able to do for account customers is to enable them access to a landed cost calculator, which we're hoping we'll be able to confirm the details of this week for our account customers. So yeah, we should have some more news on that in the coming days. If customers want to, for example, integrate into their online checkouts a landed cost calculator to make life easier for themselves. In the meantime, as long as you are able to, and I appreciate this depends vastly on whether you're selling lots of product SKUs or a small number, then as long as you are cognizant of what kind of customs are due on your items, then Royal Mail and its partner are doing the calculations for you. So even if you calculate it yourself and enter that duty cost code in that field that I was talking about before, what will happen is our calculation will happen separately to that and invoice you back for the customs duties associated with that item. If you're a small business, non-account customer buying online, then we do the calculation for you at the point of checkout.
Yeah, and that's brilliant, because at least you know that it's accurate. We can all get things wrong ourselves in our own calculation, but at least it's based on the system that's been tried and tested. Martha, you might have already, I think you kind of touched on this a little bit, but mixed origin goods in single consignments, how are they treated? So say you've got, a consignment that's made up of 1 UK origin product and 2 EU origin products. How will Royal Mail treat those?
In the same way as account customers have to declare those items individually, now within a package and the details associated with them, the duties associated with them will be calculated at the individual item level as well. So if you've got a UK item, 10%, if you've got an EU item, 15%. So that will be calculated in the same way. So in the same way as account customers submit their information to us now, HS codes, those kind of things, the duties will be calculated on individual items within a package at that level. And exactly the same if you are buying online, individual items online via click and drop, then you'll have individual item duties associated with items within a package.
Brilliant.
So no kind of highest tariff takes all kind of principle. It's done at the individual item level.
But that could have been the case, right? If Royal Mail had chosen a different direction, if you'd have gone for the flat rate fee, then it would have been the kind of higher EU tariff across the board, wouldn't it? So again, the way that you
flat fee, yeah, and it wouldn't have taken anything else into consideration. It would have just been a flat fee.
It would have just been the flat fee. Okay.
Yeah, and the flat fee is only applicable for 6 months, and then everyone has to move to the origin base level. Yeah, at Valorem level.
Yeah. It's fair to say it wouldn't have made any sense for Royal Mail to opt for that flat fee for us, but more importantly for customers, because of the average order values of the things that we carry. It just wouldn't have been economically sensible for any of us for us to adopt that approach. And as Charlotte said, it was temporary. So yes, that we've gone for the country-based tariffs, and that's what applies as duties.
That's brilliant, super duper. So posting non-origin goods, we've kind of covered that as well. Now this is an interesting one. Treatment of US origin goods re-entering the US from the UK. Now I have my view on how this is going to be treated, but Charlotte, I'd be keen to get yours as well.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I have to admit, I've only briefly looked at the rules that they're putting in place for this, but there is a returns override, if you like, for US products that are of US origin, and I think it was over 20%. Andrew, you're probably a little bit more in the detail on that than I am at the moment.
No, my understanding is the same. So yeah, they set the threshold at 20%, but I understand that if the goods haven't been subject to sufficient processing to confer UK origin to make them UK origin goods, then you'd have to split the non-US components of the US processing and any non-originating materials. Is that your understanding as well? You'd have to declare those.
I will have to, yeah, it is actually. You would have to split them individually. I can't imagine that anyone's going to need or want to do that either. So it's either, from our perspective, I think, I guess some guidance. I mean, you're best placed to provide guidance, Andrea, but what we would recommend is that it's either US origin goods wholly, or it is it's a UK origin good or from another origin. But I'd be very careful in that, end up with the complications.
I think the customer that this refers to is doing no processing pretty much. So you're buying the US origin goods in and then you're distributing them, so they may go back into the US. So I think I think we get confused because sometimes under trade agreements, the process of bringing a product into the UK, you change its kind of nationality. I don't think that's the same under kind of non-preference trade agreements.
Agree. It doesn't look like that's what they're going to apply. I would suggest maybe, and maybe you would as well, to make sure that you've got some origin statements or something from the original supplier to prove that original export actually covered those goods as well.
And I meant to mention this point earlier. So going back to declaring the origin of our products, bearing in mind that so much of international trade compliance is around obtaining the right information and maintaining it for a certain period of time. So where you've declared the origin of your goods as being UK origin, or as Charlotte says, you've imported those goods from the US and you're re-exporting them back to the US, any kind of documentation that you can maintain, like that original import declaration when you brought the goods in from the US, keep that on file in your commercial records, on your OneDrive, whatever it is, so that if it's ever queried, you can produce that document and show that you were importing 100% US origin goods and basically shipping them back out unprocessed, so they've maintained their nationality. And the same when you're calculating your origin, the more documentation you can maintain. So, using that ceramics example before, where you source your clay from and the level of processing that you do in the UK, it all helps to substantiate any queries that come your way. So it's a good kind of like practice to get into. So moving on, merchandise processing fee that wouldn't have been applicable to de minimis threshold goods. Can you cover off any guidance that you've got there? So that's usually applied to imports into the US, both formal and informal, but I think postal goods in the past, or those de minimis qualifying goods, wouldn't have been subject to the merchandise processing fee. Is that maybe all wrapped up into the surcharges at the US end?
Yeah, so if this is merchandise processing fee, as in customs clearance type fees, then I mean it's not something that we will have come across or needed to do before in the postal, obviously. Now we won't be doing any or having any clearance costs or clearance fees into the US. It is based on a monthly return that postal operators are required to do. So that's all we'll do. And then the handling fee that's all we'll be charging for that. Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's all wrapped up in that handling fee, probably.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, that's not to say that the process might change in the future. It's not something that we're looking at right now, and it's not something that the Border Protection agencies are talking to us about right now. But it might be something that changes in the future, where we have to file ACE declarations into the US.
Again, we don't have that crystal ball at the moment, do we? We don't know how things are going to change.
Exactly, yeah. Just to be transparent, it might happen in the future, but at present not.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you, Charlotte. Now, US PDDP, its availability from the post office. Are there any differences to going into the post office and physically, handing over your goods and booking US PDDP via the post office? And I know one of the questions linked to this is a lady who lives very rurally and uses the drop and go service at the post office. So without me understanding fully Royal Mail's products for shipping, can you explain whether there's any differences going into the post office as opposed to an account holder or using the online click and drop?
No, other than it's new services. So you can still go into the post office, you can still buy things online and drop them into the post office, but what you'll be purchasing is a PDDP, Postal Delivered Duties Paid solution to the States. So with the line items spelled out as I spoke about before, so postage, admin fees, and then customs duties. So there is no difference. So the post office have worked with us in a very short time frame to get services up and running, and they've been available. We had a few quirks on Thursday, but they've been available since Thursday in post offices. So yes, you can still go in and buy those services at post office. You can still buy your services online and drop them in to post offices as well. So no change in the kind of logistical arrangements around those and dropping those items off or taking stuff into a post office.
Amazing. And then talking a little bit more about Royal Mail's products or services, I know you've introduced some additional heavy goods tracked, is that right? But I think there's also some clients wondering about letters.
Yes.
As opposed to parcels. So how do they treat those? Because there's no option at the moment for letters, as per it all seems to be parcels.
So I'll start by saying if you're sending personal correspondence, which I appreciate a lot of you on this call won't be, so letters or cards or whatever else, then you can still send those using the old the existing letter services for items that are not goods or gifts. If you are wanting to send goods or gifts, then you have to use a Postal Delivered Duties Paid solution. And at the moment, for account customers, we don't have a large letter variant of that. It is so you have to, if you're sending a large letter, then you have to send it using the Postal Delivery Duties Paid parcel solution that we have at the moment.
Okay.
Our intention is not to not have a large letter variant. It's a development speed thing. So we've got people working on the large letter variant at the moment, and we expect to be able to launch that in the next few weeks or so. So it's a short-term thing. If you're buying online as a small business or a consumer via the send journeys, then you can access the personal correspondence codes, and the same thing applies, which is that if you've got a large letter, it will have to go by a Postal PDDP service for now, but that is not a long-term thing. It is a short-term thing.
Yeah, and I think if we've conveyed any message about what Royal Mail have been doing in the background over the last few weeks, is that you've been working at warp speed just to get what's already available kind of like on the platform and available to customers. So I think the fact that maybe letters are missing is just totally understandable at this point, and it'll all come in due course.
I think none of this is an intention to try and constrain or limit or reduce what we have available as options to customers. It's simply a case of having a whole different number of channels by which our customers buy our services, and for different reasons, and with different systems and software involved, and trying to, as you said, Andrea, at warp speed, update as many of those as we can, as quickly as we can. So yes, the intention is that we will have large letter services on PDDP services available. They're just not quite there yet.
Amazing, thank you. So the rollout happened, I think, on Thursday, and everything
started, yeah, on Thursday.
Yeah. Have there been any niggles? There's been just a couple over the weekend. Just some clients emailing in and saying, you know, when they're asked for the tariff rate, it won't accept 0% if the rate of duty is actually, or the product is exempt. Have you come across any niggles that you're working on? And if our clients on this call today are coming across any, what's their process to report those to Royal Mail? Is there a mechanism by which they can get that information to you?
So I guess, was it completely smooth sailing from the first moment of Thursday, the 28th of August? No, but we brought services on stream during Thursday in the main, the ones that we were planning to bring on stream on Thursday anyway, and that's the services at POL, the services for account customers, the send.royalmail services, the guest checkout services. So they came on stream, some of them late afternoon on Thursday, as we worked through various bits of last minute tech testing and various other things. So now what we should have available is, if you are using the guest checkout services as a consumer or small business at royalmail.com, the account services via click and drop, or any other of our service providers that you use to access our services, the post office services. The one that is, I think, probably getting a bit of attention that isn't yet available is if you are a logged in user of Royal Mail and you are using non-account services, we call it Journey 2 in our language. That one is not yet available, although it will be shortly. We're hoping this week. In the meantime, we've put a redirect notice on there to move you to the guest checkout, sendroyalmail.com piece, which I know isn't as convenient as the logged in user journey that you're used to, but it enables you to keep posting for the intervening period whilst we get the logged in journey user live. So it's not a defect, it's something that, again, is these development stages that we're trying to make sure that we give as many people access as quickly as we can. So if you're currently trying to use the logged in version for non-account services, then if you switch to the sendroyalmail.com journeys, the guest checkout services, you can still use the same products and services on there as you would be able to in your logged in user account. So that's one that is on our list of intentions to try and make live this week.
Okay, brilliant.
Other bits of stuff to make you aware of. So when we just talked about the duty costs field, I think I mentioned it earlier in the call, and you just mentioned it again, Andrea. So if you are if you're an account customer, that field needs a value in it, but it doesn't need the value in it. So I looked at it the other day and saw that you could put 0 in. So if people aren't being able to do that, no percentage, nothing like that, just a character in there, a numeric character, that should work, and that should allow you to carry on. The other one that's important to note, if you're using our services, is the requirement. Postal Delivered Duties Paid solutions require an entry in the recipient email and mobile phone number fields. Now, if you are a seller who doesn't capture that information, or you are working with marketplaces and you don't want to put that kind of information in there, you can put your own in there. You can put the sender email or mobile phone number in there, and that will suffice. So that will allow you to continue to buy those services, and that's a legitimate way that you can do that. Amazing. As far as glitches go, yeah, we've got, as you might imagine, lots of tech people, lots of eyes on everything, picking things up as we go. We made personal correspondence codes which weren't available on Thursday and into Friday, excuse me, on account services, made those available. Those are now available for customers now as well. So yeah, lots of eyes on it at the moment. We have a shipping solutions helpline, but there are some long wait times on there at the moment, as you might imagine, just because lots of people trying to make contact.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that completely. So I think it's a case of this is a work in progress, guys. It's everything that could be done for to continue shipping, you know, from the date that de minimis was withdrawn has been done, but then it's continuously been worked on in the background as well. So more and more will evolve over the coming days and weeks. I think a lot of our small companies joining today will use kind of what I call storefronts like Etsy and, you know, a whole host of other platforms. Yep. And obviously this is all new to me, but some of them purchase their labels through those kind of platforms. How are things working with some of those platforms at the minute, like Etsy and eBay and so on?
So our marketplace customers are really important to us, and we work not only with the people like you who sell via marketplaces, but we work with the marketplaces themselves. So we have really close working relationships with eBay and Etsy, as an example. So we've been talking to them for the last few weeks. Like us, I think they've had very little time to look at what those requirements mean and figure out how to implement them. So we currently have kind of click and drop versions, if you like, that work with Etsy as an example, and we are working with them on how we make those now compliant to the new rules. Etsy, there's ongoing conversations with them. So if you're selling on Etsy or eBay at the moment, then you have the option to be able to still purchase Royal Mail services outside of the marketplace. I believe Etsy are actually going to recommend that customers can use Royal Mail services via the options that we've got available now, while we work together over the next few weeks to enable sellers to use via the platforms again. But yes, it's work in progress, very much.
And I think that kind of correlates to what we're hearing as well. So I think one company had said that Royal Mail shipping to the US through Etsy is currently suspended. So they're obviously pointing people towards Royal Mail in that case to purchase their labels, which is exactly what you're saying, Martha.
Yes,
but it will resume in time.
Behind all the scenes of this, of course, are lots of technical integration work, which when you're using different people's technology to link together, to work together, that takes some time to make sure that it's actually working as it should be in accordance with the new customs requirements. So yeah, it's definitely work in progress. There is no lack of intent or intention to make that work properly again, but at the moment it's definitely development in progress, and in the meantime customers and sellers can use the options that we've talked about already.
Brilliant, that's super, thank you. And the same goes for Shopify as well. So some of our small businesses use Shopify or might have Shopify websites. Is that the same?
I think so, but I need to check specifically on Shopify, if I'm honest. So I'll take that one away and come back if that's okay.
Oh, that's
with you.
amazing.
I need to talk to our tech team about that.
Super, thank you. A very specific question here, but it's cropped up a lot. can you use US PDDP with PO boxes in the US or not? Because somebody was implying that it's not allowed with the EU PDDP solution.
We had the question about business addresses, which I think we exchanged emails on, didn't we, Andrea, about whether these services applied equally to business addresses or residential addresses, and the answer to that was yes. PO boxes.
But PO boxes is a bit different potentially. Maybe.
Do you know, Charlotte, on that one? I'm not sure on that one, but I can check.
And if you didn't know the answer, I was going to say let's come back, because that's a new question on me as well. Yeah,
because there are definitely differences between the European PDDP variant and the US one. So I'll double check and come back on that one. I'm making myself a list of things to come back on.
It might be a nuance for the EU member states, because in lots of regulation for the EU, they don't allow the use of PO boxes as registered business addresses. So it could be that our small businesses are thinking, well, this isn't allowed in the EU, but actually in the US it's going to be different because it's down to EU regulation. So, but that's absolutely fine. As and when you can get back to us, that would be amazing. And then treatment of gifts. So that $100 exemption that is referenced in the executive order, does it apply to postal items as well as, as it indicates in the executive order, it might be like carry-on gifts, that you take into the US yourself. But for postal gifts, does that $100 exemption exist as well?
Yes, for postal for gifts, yes. So, and you'll see that if you're buying at the post office or online postage, then you have the option to be able to declare that the item is a gift and the value of it, which exempts it from customs duties. There's still a handling fee attached to it, but it exempts it from customs duties. As far as the traveller allowance, I'm going to hand over to Charlotte because she's more in the know about that than I am.
No, I think the traveller allowance is quite clear. It was whether or not it was referring to postal items as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, so on the gifts, just to add a little bit to that as well, a small nuance. If you are a small business and you're sending to a consumer, because gifts are obviously meant to be personal items, so consumer to consumer. But we had a webinar with the USPS and the CBP, Customs Border Protection, last week, where they suggested that if there is a note inside of the parcel, so that suggests that if borders wanted to open the parcel, then they could, to check it. And it is marked down as a gift, and it had a note inside the parcel that says that this is a gift being sent on behalf of a consumer to consumer movement, then they would accept that, which is not normally the rules for gifts, where they're meant to be consumer to consumer. We don't have that in writing, so if you're going to be sending it and it's business to consumer, then you'd have to just be very mindful of that it could get opened up to check that it really is a personal gift and it is eligible as a personal gift.
That's brilliant. Thank you for that. So the handling charge, which applies now, wouldn't have applied previously, would it? Because it wouldn't have gone through kind of formal customs clearance, because it would have been under.
Applies to existing EU account services on PDDP, but yes.
Yeah.
Private to this.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Are there any changes that our businesses need to make to their packaging, like, making the commercial invoice visible in a clear envelope or anything? Is there anything else that businesses can do to make sure that stuff is cleared simply, or even help Royal Mail to make sure that stuff is cleared swiftly?
The key thing for me is get your data right, because that is going to be our biggest returns will be if there's no origin, if the values aren't there. The key thing that the USPS and CBP keep telling us is they will be very heavily checking origin, particularly origin of products. So just be really mindful of that. Make sure that you've got all of that right, and all of the master data needed for a customs declaration on that CN document is correct. And then let us do everything else. Let's make it really simple for you. Just provide the right data in the right formats, and we'll get it there for you.
But no requirement for a commercial invoice.
No requirement for a commercial invoice.
I've seen that question come up a lot. No requirement for a commercial invoice. No
change.
change.
That's
just
brilliant.
the CN 22-23 that's produced by the system, but no commercial invoice required.
I think it's a minefield. I mean, the whole product classification or the whole assigning your commodity codes. I think anybody that's on the call today, I think Global Trade Department might take away a kind of action to do a very short tutorial in the next couple of weeks on product classification. So to make sure that all of you are assigning the correct commodity code to your goods and how to declare them correctly. I think that would be quite good just to help you guys, because it's annoying having goods returned to you, but also helping the likes of Royal Mail that obviously don't want to be passing goods back either. So watch out for that. We might put on a short tutorial for that, but we'll push it out via the usual channels. Declaring samples, ladies. So free of charge goods. Obviously, we know there's no such thing as free of charge for customs purposes. So how should we be treating samples that are going? Is there a maximum threshold in terms of the value that we declare? How can we do that properly?
Yeah, so I mean, samples can be imported free of charge, free of duties. There is, I'll send over a link for this one as well. There is some specifics about samples. They're pretty similar to the UK one, if people, or the EU one, if people are familiar with that, where it needs to be a true sample. It needs to make sure that it's, you know, perforated, torn. It cannot be used for commercial purposes, or it can't be sold on in the country of destination. So send over the details on that. As it stands at the moment, I mean, it's I guess you just have to clearly label it and clearly mark it as a sample, and the value that it is as well. So if it's, and the duties will be charged based on the value of the goods, because it is the IEPA rates. So it'll be the reciprocal country specific rates, that the Trump tariffs, as we're calling it, that they will be applied. But if it's a sample and it's under $1, then obviously that's going to be a minimal charge, isn't it?
That's brilliant. Yeah, that makes sense. The next one is, I mean, it's referred to as goods for exhibitions, but it's exhibitions, and I can think a lot of the customers on today's call are thinking about galleries and so on. So if they take product into the US that's going to be exhibited in a gallery, there's a chance that it could be sold while it's in the US, but then there's also a chance that it might just come home. Could we use, and this is probably one for you, Charlotte, could we use temporary import as a mechanism to get those goods in, technically suspending that duty pending sale or return back to the UK?
Yeah, unfortunately, this isn't something that we can do within the postal network, because the data that's passed doesn't include that kind of information. It doesn't mean that we won't be able to do it in the future, but it is something that we'd have to work through. And it's, at the moment, it's probably not something, you know, we've got so much more that we need to get through for the businesses. This is
specific,
one that,
isn't it?
it's very specific. Yeah.
It's an interesting one. How we would usually deal with that for anybody that's affected on the call would be that you should be able to import goods under a kind of temporary import, which means they can stay in the country of destination for up to 2 years pending being sold, and that customs duty is suspended while the goods are in there, and it's all dealt with via declarations coming back into the UK, or paying the duty when the goods are sold, in this case in the US. I think anybody that's impacted by that, then we can potentially work through it. You know, Global Trade Department can advise, and like Charlotte said, we don't know whether that's going to be something that Royal Mail can offer longer term, but it is quite specific, that question. And obviously what Royal Mail have to do is cater for as many people as possible initially. So yeah, get in touch if we get anybody that's impacted.
If we get a big demand for it and there's a need for it, then there's always a potential to have a conversation with USPS, but it would be something we'd have to set up separately. Yeah. Thanks, Andrea.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Charlotte. Thank you. That leads me nicely into the next one. So say, and this happens a lot, right, that customers that are receiving goods in the US may decide to return them for whatever reason. Is there any mechanism in place for reclaiming that duty that's being paid up front?
So there's two ways of doing this. So some customers might buy things and decide that they no longer want them and then return them, or whether they're undeliverable. So if they're undeliverable by us, then they'll go back into the postal network and they come back to you in the same way that they would currently. So you'll get them back. For returns, it would be a new return, so it'll be a completely new USPS postal return, so it'll be completely separate transaction. Unfortunately, as it stands at the moment, and this is something also that we're working very closely with USPS and CBP on, is the drawback, which is the mechanism that you can reclaim the VAT the duties, VAT, thinking about UK and the EU then, where you can reclaim the duties that have been paid. Unfortunately, for neither the returns nor the undeliverables, we are able to facilitate that. But like I say, it is something that we're working on. It is very unfortunate because that we recognise that there are a lot of returns and that people do get particularly undeliverable returns, and that you would want to reclaim that. And we are, like I say, working very closely with them to try and get that over the line. But just going back to what I said about the master data and making sure that the documents and everything are correct, just that's our key thing really, is to try and stop those returns from happening, those undeliverables from happening in the first place. Is to get that data right so that we can make sure we can keep it in country. I did notice a question on the chat actually around if the customer rejects the duties. I'm kind of hoping that they will have already rejected paying those duties up front, because you guys will have already tried to charge that to them on top of the price of goods. So they won't see anything. So we have no DDU solution or DAP solution. So customers will not be charged anything. They will not have the ability to reject them based on the payment.
And that is the benefit of the PDDP solutions, isn't it? Is that the end customer, your end customer in the States, there are no nasty surprises. They know up front what you're charging them. You know what you've charged them, and then actually the consumer at the other end, there is no interruption to them actually receiving their item from a delivery experience point of view.
The customer experience is better, right, for the customer. We might be, paddling furiously in the background and paying extra, but for the customer, they're not having to get a text or an email from customs asking them to pay the duty before the goods can be released to them. So, and I think the other thing to mention is, when we talk about inflated costs of getting goods, that landed cost to the customer being, higher because of the tariffs. This is universal. So, it's not just goods coming from the UK, it's goods coming into the US from anywhere. So, in many respects, you're on a level pegging or a level footing with, manufacturers or businesses from across the world really trying to continue trade with the US. You can appreciate that having a Royal Mail account has become a hot topic. So we just wanted to cover off what are the prerequisites to having an account with Royal Mail and having that kind of like dedicated account rather than being a click and drop.
So I saw this question come up and I thought I should invite my new business person on, but the prerequisites are around the volume of items that you send or the amount that you spend, and there are two categories of that. I think we've got some specific online information about it, so what I'll do after this call is I'll find the relevant information and post the link in the chat for that, so that people can look at that, and if it's something that they're interested in, the mechanism by which they can talk to somebody at Royal Mail about that. That'd
be amazing, Martha, thank you. And then finally, the question from me is, and it has come up so much, is what are the plans? Are there any plans for Royal Mail extending its PDDP service beyond those EU member states and the US, because so many of the small businesses have said it would be a game changer for them to be able to offer this to more countries. So can you just recap on oh well, that's a good start. Can you recap on the member states that it's available to in the EU, because it wasn't everything initially, was it?
No, I think there's about 10 destinations. I'm now frantically looking for my list. It's 10 EU destinations, I think, currently, and the USA. I'm just looking for my Postal DDP services, because I'm not an international product manager, as might become clear.
Germany.
It's the main
Germany,
ones
France,
that are covered, though, isn't it? It is the main ones.
Yeah, Ireland, Netherlands, Cyprus, Malta, Austria, Switzerland, Luxembourg, Norway as well, Sweden, and the USA.
Brilliant.
But
so what?
Sorry, Sweden's coming soon. As well, but we are, even our providers, our suppliers, so the Universal Postal Union suppliers as well, would like to get more PDDP countries on board for PDDP, and it just requires conversations between the postal operators, and that's what we should look to do.
And more hours in the day as well.
It does feel like that this is potentially something that will shift the PDDP conversations into a different space, because as you've probably seen, there's been quite a lot of coverage of the EU postal administrations battling to try and get live on this as well, and some of them having had to suspend services. So I think it's one of those points in time where a lot of things that have been sitting waiting for good conversation on this may come to the fore as well.
Oh, well, something to thank Mr. Trump for. There had to be something in this, I suppose. I know you couldn't possibly comment.
No.
So we've got, actually, we're dead on 11. I don't know, ladies. We did say we weren't going to take any questions on this, but again, the gremlins in the machine Q&A have been.
I can see.
And that was my idea, not Martha's or Charlotte's. But we do have a couple of hands up. Have you got time to take one or maybe two questions maximum from?
Yeah, that's fine. I guess the commitment is
sure?
that we can have a review jointly, Andrea, with you of the questions that are in the chat. And firstly, make sure that we can answer them offline in an appropriate way so that you can all have access to those answers. But also, potentially, it gives me food for thought to make sure our help content that we're giving to sellers and account customers can actually access that as well, those who haven't been able to attend this. So we'll work through all the stuff that's in the chat just to reassure you to make sure that we can answer those.
That would be fantastic, because I mean, honestly, our small businesses, they do try and sort it out themselves. It's not that they just ask daft questions. They do try and go away and find out the information themselves, but it's a minefield and things are changing so rapidly. So that would be fantastic. What I'm just going to ask Gaynor, if you want to unmute yourself, if you can. I'm going to allow two questions, and Gaynor had her hand up first. Can you unmute yourself, Gaynor?
Just unable to mic.
I think Jamie has just unmuted or asked her to unmute. Let's see.
There we are.
Oh, there you are. Hi, Gaynor.
Lovely, thank you. I'm just wanting to, you've touched on it several times already over different questions. We use the logged in click and drop option. We don't use an OBA account, so we'll not build anything back. Everything we book with you, we pay for at the time.
Yeah.
Now, you've mentioned, because Royal Mail are only applying the IEPA tariff.
Yes.
So does that mean that the MFN portion of what would be the MFN portion of the order just doesn't get paid at all? My concern is there a situation where the customer may get billed that MFN portion of the tariff?
There's no facility for that to happen in our system. So the way that your submission will work is it goes through the partner communication in the software that makes sure that we understand what IEPA tariff, what country-based tariff is applicable to your items, and that's what then is submitted through our partner, paid to the US customs authorities. So there is no facility for any additional MFN tariff, even though it doesn't exist in the postal network now.
So the MFN portion that we would have paid if we were using a different courier service, it just isn't applicable at all. It just isn't due.
Correct.
At all.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. That's me then. That's covered that. Thank you,
brilliant. Thank
Good.
you.
I'm glad we were able to do a positive response.
Big tick.
And thank you, Gaynor. Thanks so much. And then the only other question I'm going to allow is Veronica. You had your hand up second. So do you want to unmute yourself?
People clicking furiously in the background.
Are you there, Veronica? Hello, Veronica.
Looks like I'm mute.
Oh, I think you've just muted yourself again. Can you unmute?
Veronica, I am trying.
Jamie's trying in the background to let you speak.
Veronica's saying she is trying.
Oh,
Hello. I will be Veronica for you, I think. Hello. Do you want to... If you type your question in very quickly, Veronica, we can see. I'll read it out. No, I think we might have to move on to, if you can do one more.
oh, no. She said 1 sec. No.
I'm an illustrator.
Oh,
Okay.
That's
This
all
might
I've
be
got
about
so far.
exemptions.
Can I just answer a question that's just popped up in the chat while I was
Yes,
watching there?
please do,
Is
Charlotte.
that no, the consumer, your customers, the US recipient will not receive any charges at all. So no duties at all. The MFN portion does not get charged through the postal systems at all along the route, not to yourselves and not to the recipient either.
That's
Hopefully
amazing. That provides a lot of comfort. I think that's the worst thing, thinking that everything's been paid up front, but then the customer still can't receive their goods because when they're being cleared, there's been another duty applied. But there's basically no mechanism for that to happen via this route, is there? So brilliant.
Go back to Veronica. And I every week I hate doing these when we have to try and answer questions via text because it never works. And I'm not sure we've got enough context, Veronica. It's just my work is original to me, but each print is not an original piece. But I'm not really sure what the question is.
So I think it's probably to do with
Exemptions.
duties, I would imagine, but I think you're covered on both sides really, Veronica, because if your work is an original artwork, then it's exempt. And also if you're doing reprints of that artwork, it's exempt under Chapter 49 as well. So it's exempt under Chapter 97 as being an original artwork, and then it will be exempt under Chapter 49 as a reprint as well. So I think you're probably covered as being exempt on both counts there. I don't know, Charlotte, is that your understanding as well?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I agree.
Brilliant. Okay,
And
ladies
Andrea,
and
just a couple
yeah.
of points that keep coming up in the chat, and we've said it again, but I'm just going to say it one more time just for because I think
please.
it's causing a lot of people trouble, is
Okay.
that if you're an account customer and you're faced with the duty costs field, then you don't have to put the actual duty cost in there. You can put any value in there because it isn't currently used for duty calculation by us. So any number can go in there at the moment. And when you are faced with a mandatory field for recipient telephone number, mobile phone number and email address, if you don't capture that information from your customer or you don't want to put that in there for your customer, you can put your own in there, as in your business sender address and mobile phone number in there as well, and that will allow you to proceed. Just those two things, which I know keep stopping people in their tracks, so I want to make sure that people understand that they can do that.
That's brilliant, Martha. Honestly, I can't thank the pair of you enough. This has been amazing. Like we say, we've got the transcript of the Q&A and so on, so we can maybe work collaboratively on that and pull together a document that we can share. But I think that the overriding message to all of you is don't let this be a reason for you not exporting to the US. There is such demand for our products globally, in the US, in the EU as well. And I don't think enough of you know about the EU PDDP service, which gets you through all of that nasty VAT stuff, which means, you can continue selling to your EU customers as well. So don't let this be a reason to switch off selling to the US, especially since so many of you are coming into your really busy period before Christmas. So understand that there will be a lot more coming. We'll work collaboratively on the Q&A and get you through a document that you can all refer to. We're going to top and tail this video and put it on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and replay it afterwards if there's any bit we're conscious that we've put a lot of information at you and you might just want to digest it separately. But Martha and Charlotte, thank you so much again for your time. It's been enormously helpful.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your time. Massively important community, definitely. Thank you for putting it together, Andrea.
You're very welcome. Thank you, ladies, and we'll speak soon. Right, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Bye. Bye.